vacation.
Yeah,
So where do you live
vacation.
normal now?
In Quezon City, in Manila.
Oh, in Manila.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. It's nice to have you.
Oh,
Can I
nice.
put microphone so that they have better audio?
Yeah, whatever I can.
No, it's okay.
Gusto mo bang matuto ng agribusiness, crops, livestock and poultry, aquaculture, at ma-inspire sa mga success stories? Agribusiness, how it works! As a YouTube channel, Agribusiness features entrepreneurs, farmers, organizations, OFWs, investors. However, beyond our usual content and official endorsements, Agribusiness does not engage in other business dealings with them. While our viewers and featured individuals and entities may choose to pursue business deals with each other on their own, we encourage them to be cautious in doing so.
I've been growing apples since I started farming in 1987.
Wow.
I'm right now, for the last couple years, I was the only apple grower in our county because it's been a little depressed. The market has been depressed, and but I've been the only organic grower for probably a decade in our county.
Wow.
But I'm probably the only one out of many counties that not only is certified organic and regenerative organic, but I've been
Yeah.
practicing permaculture.
Yeah.
Now,
Interesting.
permaculture, I've been raising animals in my fields, in my orchards, for probably 20 years. So we started with 5,000 layer hens. And we had little coops we built and we pushed them through the orchard. And the chickens, you know, I never knew, but chickens, their favorite food is, well, their favorite is seeds and bugs, right? But their main food they eat all day long is grass. Did you know that? In fact, if you leave chickens in a yard full of grass, within a week or two they'll eat it down to the dirt.
Yes.
No more grass.
Yes.
Right?
True.
But,
Yeah, yeah.
but we don't think about that, especially in America. We think chickens, they like corn, and of course seeds, right? But we don't realize that's their staple all day long. And I always tell people, because I was interested, why do they say animals and the meat from grass-fed animals is much more healthy? Well, it reflects the same ratio of fats that are found in grass, which is about 30 to 40% omega-3, like fish oil, and 60 to 70% omega-6. And so that mix is perfect healthy for humans. But if you have an animal that's raised on corn, or even a cow that has been finished on corn for more than 3 months, he loses all of his fish oil, all of his omega-3 oil. And now it's all omega-6, and that's why it's not so healthy for you.
Oh, I see.
So anyway, it's just an interesting. So, but anyway, permaculture is...
But before,
Oh,
first,
yes.
I want to introduce you to my blog.
Oh, yes. I'm Rob Jackson. My wife, Sarah, she's in the house. She's with our grandbaby. We've been farming since 1987. But I started farming when I was 5 years old. My dad would take my brother and I, and in the nighttime, he would wake us up early in the morning, and we would go work chopping cotton. Right?
Cotton.
And,
in the same location? No.
Here and in Traver, which is about 5 miles away, and he had lots of farms. So we would chop cotton with the senoritas, the senores, the crew of ladies.
All right.
All speak Spanish, right?
All right.
And so at 5, he would tell my mom, I'm only going to keep him working until 12 or 1 o'clock, but a lot of days he would forget us out there. He'd come back at 3 or 4. After the crew went home, we would be waiting. So there's very few American gringos that actually have had that kind of experience, that every summer, every day, we would work, and school was like vacation. Right? Vacation. We were so excited for school to start, right? So, of course, we did well in school because we would rather do school than work, right? Anyways, So I've been farming since early years.
All right.
My grandfather came here from Tennessee in 1930s before the war, and then I'm the first in my generation. My cousin and I are the first to be certified organic. So anyway, so welcome to our farm.
Yeah.
In fact, we just changed the name of our farm this last spring to Welcome Table Farms.
Welcome Table Farm. Why?
Well, partly is the question is we became certified regenerative organic. Well, what is regenerative? That's the big word in agriculture, right?
Yes.
There's a wonderful.
Rob, maybe while we're discussing, can we go around while discussing all these things?
Sure. So the question is, what is regenerative? And regenerative, ultimately, and there's a great podcast, by the way. You can reference it in the. It's a great podcast. It's the #1 podcast in America for regenerative agriculture.
All right.
But regenerative focuses on relationship. Okay, there's lots of relationships in agriculture. One of them is the farmer with the soil. Well, there's also a relationship then between the farmer and the microbes in the soil, farmers and the plants. But ultimately, the most important relationship is between the farmer and his customer. Okay? And so when regenerative farmers, like organic farmers, it's almost identical, but there's a zoomed in focus on the health of the soil. But there's regenerative. So we really follow the progress that we're making in the soil health. Come on in.
So how long you've been practicing regenerative agriculture?
I've been certified for 2 years, but I really didn't change any practice from organic. But the only requirements is now we're measuring the increase in organic matter
in the
soil. We're doing more testing to make sure that we are progressing in the soil health. So,
these are apples?
Yes. So these are plums. So when we have plums, a plum tree has to have a pollinator. And so every tree has, you'll see a little blue tape.
Yes.
And we've grafted on a different variety. So the pollen from those flowers have to be moved to the flowers of the other part of the tree by a bee or wind.
Yes.
And that's what pollinates that other flower and makes a plum fruit. Okay. And so here we have these are apples, and you can see Justino down here. He's been working for me or with me for about 20 years.
Wow.
And we're pruning right now, but these trees also have pollinators. Apples need pollinators, so the same concept.
Wow.
So
you need to graft.
So
is that a different variety?
A different variety. For instance, let me see.
Wow, that's something new to me.
There's one right here. Okay, so it's marked with a red tape.
Yes.
Okay, this is the pollinator limb. This whole limb is a Gala apple. Okay, and everything else are Granny Smith apples.
I see.
So the pollen from that apple has to be moved to the flower of this apple to make a Granny Smith. Okay. Oh, so you've asked how long we've practiced regenerative.
Yes.
So in organic farming, we fertilize our trees with manure, animal manure, usually chicken manure or cattle manure. And so it's a natural thing for us to use animal manure to fertilize our trees, right? So when I started raising chickens, their droppings became the food for my trees, right? And then I started raising cattle, but cattle, they tear up the trees, right? And so then I just started pigs, and I love pigs. And they are doing wonders to help cultivate the soil. They I think their favorite food is grubs or worms. And I have about 7 worms for every square foot
You grow that also?
Well, they just are natural because I take care of the soil. I give them plenty of food. Okay, so I have about 7 worms for every square foot, and pigs love worms. In fact, when they're rooting, they'll come up and they'll just be chewing on worms. just slopping it up. They just love worms and grubs. Now, what are grubs? One of our big insects that overwinters here is what we call the June bug. And June bugs, they overwinter as grubs, and so they're big, fat, white, juicy grubs that are in the soil until the next year. They sleep in the soil, and then they come out in June. About the end of May, 1st of June, they come out and they're adults and they fly around, and it squeaks like this, squeak, squeak, squeak.
Oh.
And it has little antenna, and you can look it up. But their arms that are sticky, so they grab you, and anyway. And so when I started bringing animals, it creates an entire eco-culture, or not a environmental culture, so that it's a circular culture. I don't have to buy as much fertilizer anymore. If you have the right amount of animals, they can fertilize your trees, but they also do other things. If an apple gets bit by a worm, then that apple will fall, and the pigs would eat it before the worm has a chance to breed and to multiply and to right?
Oh.
So there's they help take care of other insects. When I had chickens, the chickens would eat the woolly apple aphid, and they would overwinter around the trunk of the tree. And so when I accidentally, some chickens got out of my pen one year, and they ran out here and they started scratching around the tree trunk, eating my woolly apple aphid. And it's like, oh, I want these chickens out here. And so I started planning, and I built a fence, and I started planning how I can have animals join the operation, because most of the bugs that we have out here are they're my allies. They're my friends, because they eat the bad bugs. But so I started looking for animals that would help have a symbiotic relationship with my tree fruit. So that's what permaculture is. Regenerative is really about monitoring, honoring the relationship we have with the earth by taking care of the earth. When you take care of soil, you're doing things like not adding things that kill things, and you're adding things that will actually be food for microbes. Okay, there's a billion microbes in your handful, and you need a living soil, because it's those microbes that help dissolve and make rocks, the minerals that are found in rocks, available to plants. Because rocks, we can't eat rocks, right? Plants can't eat rocks, but it's the microbes in the soil that break down the rock so that it releases the minerals into a plant-soluble form. Then the plants can absorb it, and we can benefit from the rocks. I ask children sometimes when they're in the field, who likes to eat rocks? And none of them know, they don't want to eat rocks. I know we can't live on rocks, but we have a direct relationship with rocks. We need them because they're inside of them are the minerals we need to live as humans. But we need the microbes to mine the rocks so that the plants could absorb the minerals, and then we eat the plants and we absorb the minerals. So without honoring the relationship with our soils, we won't be able to benefit from our soils. And that's been a downward decline for the last 50 years in our organic matter that's found in soil. And so organically, we don't spray for weeds, and so we have a continual supply of humus that is being put back into the soil. You see, grass decomposes and becomes humus. When the pigs eat the grass and the manure is on the ground and it gets rooted in, then it decomposes and becomes humus, and that's all food for microbes. But then there's also the relationship between our customer, and that's something that really I've really been missing. For 40 years I've been producing fruit. I produce enough apples and plums to feed, using the average annual consumption numbers, 45,000 people a year I feed.
Wow.
They pay an average of about $4.5 million for what I produce.
Wow.
But the system, because I'm not direct contact with the people, only 500,000 of that 4.5 million make it back to the farm to pay for my expenses, and then I lose another 500. So I'm doing all this producing of beautiful fruit, and I'm losing 500,000 a year. So I get to pay $1,500 every day to go to work. Isn't that exciting? I get to pay to go to work. Some years are better, but for the last several years, and because it's that disconnect, we've said, you know what, I'm done farming with not knowing my customers. I'm done. I can't keep paying to go to work. And my customers, they're paying a lot of money for my produce at the grocery stores.
Yeah.
Yes.
4.5 million, but only 500,000 comes to pay for the pruners and the fertilizer and the electricity, you know, everything. So we're in the middle of changing that because we don't. I think in the end, when we're partnered with maybe 10,000 of my customers, especially locally, we'll give them produce at half the cost they'll pay at the store. And I'll make 3 times the money.
Yes.
Right? So, but it's about relationships. And so what we've started is we've started dinners. I just invite my neighbors and my guests. We have dinner on Saturday night, a potluck. And I provide the main dish and people bring food. I just want to get to know my neighbors. It's no charge, right? And so that's what the table is over there.
I noticed.
And I changed the name of my farm to Welcome Table Farms because I want to know my people, right? And I've been missing that my whole life of farming. I've simply been working a lot of times alone, and no one really knows what's going on here. So let me show you a little bit about what this looks like.
Rob, question, how many pigs you have in the farm?
Right now in this particular field we have about 60 pigs. Within about a month we'll probably have about 80 or 90, okay?
Some of them are pregnant?
Yes, a lot of the sows are pregnant. And I love pigs because they're fertilizing my trees.
Yeah.
They're eating the apples that fall down.
Yeah.
They don't bother the tree, and I can have fruit in the trees, and they can't reach it, right? And so it's now the only thing to meet food safety laws is we just like I was farming before. I could put raw manure in my field, in my trees, up until 90 days before harvest. So the only law that I have to follow is I have to move all my pigs to another field 3 months before I pick. That's why I have every one of my fields are pasture. I have fences, so I can move my pigs to the other pasture when the other plum field when I'm done picking plums, and 3 months before I start picking apples. And So no artificial feeds for the pigs? No, all they eat is grass and
100%.
fruit. 100%.
Wow.
So these are Idaho pastured pigs. They have a high conversion capacity. They can convert grass into meat, or muscle. So they're very efficient, and they benefit from what I provide to them, and then we'll start a pork business next summer.
Wow.
Right? So I
You're
hope
gonna sell the pork?
Yes, bacon, ham,
Wow.
Everything.
That's another business.
Yeah, so I think that we could handle 500 pigs on this 60 acres, and we could harvest we'll harvest, to keep the herd that amount. We'll keep them harvested. But you can see the pigs down there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like I said, they eat grass all day, they eat apples, and they look for worms.
They don't destroy the trunk of the trees?
No, they take care of the trees. Even the baby trees, they take care. It's amazing. Like a cow would destroy it.
Yeah.
And so when people come out to pick right now, well, one of the beautiful things is when you farm with animals and the animals are healthy and happy, it's a psychological impact on your mind because they're happy, they're healthy, you're not worried about the poisons being sprayed on, you can't raise animals in a conventional field because you'd have to move them every time you spray.
Yes.
Because the spray is dangerous.
Yes.
Right? So there's a psychological benefit, there's peace in the fields. Peace. Shalom in Hebrew, right? There's peace, there's wholeness, and there's not a conflict. Like I used to farm conventionally, and we used to spray so much stuff on the ground to kill the weeds and kill the seeds.
Yeah.
And my neighbors, bless their hearts, they do the same thing. But what we were spraying was so dangerous. We had to put all the gloves on and the masks, and we had to hang the signs, do not enter for so many days, right? And that spray, Roundup included, kills microbes in the soil.
Yeah.
It sterilizes the soil.
Yeah.
In fact, some of it, one of the pre-emergent herbicides, simazine, it got so bad in some areas along the foothills here that they were sprayed so much that it would seep down into our drinking water. Anyway, it just doesn't make sense. Why? When we could have something like this.
Yeah.
And so if I had 5 times the number of pigs in here, you might see 2 or 3 pigs or 4 pigs in a row. And that's 1,100 feet long, almost a quarter mile, this row. So anyway, so now I left these apples on the tree when they were very small and when we harvested, right? And they didn't taste good because when you pick them, you only test for starch, for cooking. But now we left it on the tree and now it's sweet and tart. So it's better for people. And so eventually by next year, my heart is that everything I grow would be directly purchased by my 10,000 customers.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they can buy apples from September 20th to Thanksgiving. They can buy apples, or middle of December. And they can start buying plums from May 20th all the way until September, and then we'll start selling pork in
summer.
In the summer. That's the dream. And then we also have 5 little hotel units right on the river here. And so it's a way that we say to the public, welcome, come to our farm. We have nothing to hide. Now, people ask, when you are organic, some people think we don't spray. Well, we spray more often. But for instance, when I fight the disease called fire blight, every other day I use hydrogen peroxide. You know what you put on your cut? Or if you get something in your mouth, you can even put it in your mouth. It cleans, right? It's an oxidizer. Every other day for about 45 days, I spray that on all my apples to kill the bacteria called fire blight. I use copper also to kill fire blight in its ionic form. We use pheromone confusion, mating disruption. Look, see right here? See these things here? These plastic things? Here, I'll break one. This is actually made by a company in Japan. I had a great entomologist for years. His name was Pat Weddle. And back in 1987, when we started farming apples, he would say, Rob, I want you to use this new product. It's going to help us. gives off the smell of the female coddling moth. And so when the female and the male come out from the ground around April 1st every year, as they come out as adults, and they look for each other to mate. Well, the way that the males find the females is by smell.
Yeah.
And so we fill the entire orchard with the smell of the female cuddling moth. And so the males, they think they're in heaven, right? But they can't find the females. And so they don't breed. No mating, no worms. You see? And so we've been doing this since 1987. I used to buy these at the chemical store, and they would laugh at me. What are you doing? You find this stuff, you know? You could spray poison and kill the worms. You don't need this. Well, so for since 2004, I buy these every year. I hang them about the last week of March. They give off the smell all the way until September. And then we also keep track, just in case some find each other, we keep track of when the first adults come out from the winter. And when we know that date, then we keep track of the degree days. So we know when, if there was any mating going on, when those eggs would hatch. So we call that the first generation is usually around the first part of May. The second generations of babies or eggs will start hatching sometime in early June, and then the third generation will be in July. So for every generation of possible time when the worms would be hatching, we spray almost always a BT, a bacteria, which is natural. People can eat it. It's on all the fruit naturally, but it makes the worms sick and they don't want to eat anymore. And we spray a living virus. So a living virus that's found in the wild, and when the worms eat it, they get sick and stop eating. Those are the kind of things we can use organically, natural things from the earth. And we use fertilizer, like I said, we use composted and raw manure. Raw manure for tree fruit has to be applied at least 90 days before harvest. And in my case, the animals have to be taken out 90 days before harvest. And that's how we farm. We work with our animals, we work with nature, we work with the good bugs to farm.
Rob, for clarification.
Yes.
This will produce a smell.
If this was a new one, you would smell. Actually, this might be a new one here. Yeah.
So it smells like
you can see this is sticky. Is there any smell left? Probably not, because
So it smells like the.
It actually smells like cucumbers, freshly cut cucumbers for some reason. No, I can't smell it now. The smell is gone, but the liquid evaporates and is the smell of the female coddling moth. Okay.
So the male thinks that the
female is everywhere. It's like heaven. It's like
find something,
but he can't find them because right. Oh, you can.
Agribusiness merch is now available on Shopee and Lazada. Agribusiness, how it works. Instruct, inspire, succeed.